On June 10th, the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Alaska obtained an indictment against a 45-year-old man named Sean Mobley. The indictment returned by the federal grand jury charges Mr. Mobley, the defendant, with distributing carfentanil to two people, an individual and a minor, causing both victims to overdose within 1 hour of each other. The adult victim was fortunately revived, but the minor victim died of an overdose. As I will describe in a minute, the circumstances surrounding this criminal conduct are tragic and heartbreaking. Because of this alleged conduct, the defendant is specifically charged with 1 count of distribution of a controlled substance resulting in serious bodily injury and death, 1 count of distribution of a controlled substance resulting in serious bodily injury, and 1 count of distribution of a controlled substance to a person under the age of 21. If convicted, the defendant faces a mandatory minimum of 20 years in prison and potentially up to life. Let me first provide some context to this indictment. The defendant is charged with crimes involving a drug called carfentanil, a horrific drug. Fentanyl is responsible for the large spikes in overdose deaths in Alaska over the past few years. But even with as deadly as fentanyl is, carfentanil is 100 times more potent. Let me repeat that. We are dealing with a street drug that is almost inconceivably dangerous. It is 100 times more powerful than fentanyl and 10,000 times more powerful than morphine. This indictment marks the first time in Alaska that federal charges have been brought involving the distribution of carfentanil. Here is a summary of the allegations. Court filings indicate that on November 14th of last year, Mr. Mobley and another unnamed individual sold carfentanil to an adult victim. Later that night, the unnamed individual received a phone call informing them that the victim was overdosing. That victim was revived by Narcan. These same court documents further allege that the defendant later distributed that carfentanil to the minor victim, causing the victim to overdose and die. Specifically, during the late evening that same day, the defendant drove to a gas station and met the minor victim. The minor victim entered the defendant's truck, and the defendant then drove the victim to a remote ATV trail in Wasilla, arriving around midnight. While at the trail, the minor victim used some of the carfentanil that the defendant allegedly provided to her and fatally overdosed while in the truck. Court documents further allege that the defendant then dumped her body at the trail in the middle of the night. Those court documents additionally allege that after discarding the minor victim's body, the defendant left the scene to distribute more narcotics. The next morning, a man walking his dog found the minor victim's body on the ATV trail. The Alaska State Medical Examiner examined the body and determined that the cause of death was acute combined toxic effects of carfentanil and methamphetamine. Unfortunately, this indictment marks a troubling milestone, the first prosecution in Alaska for the distribution of the poison carfentanil. To make matters worse, Mr. Mobley is accused of distributing this toxic substance to two people, resulting in the near-deadly overdose of one and the heartbreaking fatal overdose of a local minor, whose body he then allegedly dumped onto a secluded trail in the middle of the night. Aggressive prosecutions of individuals peddling deadly drugs to our communities, including our children, is a national priority. I want to commend the Alaska Bureau of Investigations and the DEA for their diligent investigation, and to the Alaska Department of Law for their continued collaboration as we pursue justice for the victims and loved ones impacted by this tragedy.